Welcome to the podcast. What if I tried to change my voice? You're listening to
1095 with Bibs.
Exactly. This is my audition, actually, for a radio show.
Oh, no way. Are you trying to get on, like, NPR?
Yeah, NPR.
Is that the goal of this? Go national?
Yeah.
International eventually?
Yeah.
Get onto one of the major networks?
You know me so well. That's my life goal.
Mainstream. That's you right there.
That's definitely.
Play the game. Climb the ladder.
Climb the ladder. You know me. American dream. Climb that ladder.
Rung by rung. Wanna be at the top. Look down at all the people.
I don't care what it takes. Self-sacrifice. Health. Hustle. I can sleep when I'm dead.
I hate that saying.
I know.
It's the stupidest thing in the world.
It's the worst ever. Do people really think like that?
What? That you can sleep when you're dead?
Yeah, I guess I know people really think like that.
I've met a few.
I feel like I went through a phase, kind of maybe in college, where I was like, jumped on the willpower bandwagon.
I definitely didn't sleep all that much in college, but
Nor did I.
was a period of time.
Yeah.
And I felt like I was getting something beneficial out of it. So.
Yeah. Until all the willpower ran out. That's what nobody tells you. And then they make it seem like it's your fault.
It dwindles.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hi.
Hi.
Good
Welcome to the
you.
podcast. Great
Thanks.
to see you. Haven't seen you in a long time.
It's only been a year, actually. We saw each other in August.
Was it really a year?
Less than a year. 10 months.
True.
Right?
It feels like I see you more, though, because I talk to you very often. You might be the person I talk to, like, most consistently.
Aw.
Aside from my roommate.
Yeah, I hope you guys have pretty consistent
Imagine if I was
conversation.
like, I talk to you more than the person I live with. Yeah.
I'd be concerned. But I will be the proud owner of that number 2 title.
Amazing. Well, thank you for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
So happy to be here in your living room.
I'm so happy to have you in my living room.
In this cozy space.
It's a very fun
that
space.
is just the best. How are you today? Let's pretend we haven't been talking all day already.
Yeah, I feel like you could probably answer how I am today.
Should we guess how the other person is doing?
Oh, that'd be fun.
Okay.
You first.
Okay. Oh, this feels weird. Like I'm...
How well do you know me?
I think you feel good. This is my guess. You're excited. You're excited that I'm here. That sounds so cocky. You're thrilled that you're in my presence.
Beyond ecstatic.
Okay, no. But I do think you're probably, like me, excited for this week because we're hanging out with one of our other former roommates. We used to be roommates. We can get into how we know each other. But if I were you, I'd be feeling slightly bummed about needing to work this week, but very excited for the second half of the week. And I also don't know what your job is. It seems like you really like it. So maybe you don't even mind that you're working tomorrow. That was super generic. Can you tell me how you actually feel?
No, I feel like that's pretty good. It's exciting to have guests coming in and to share my space because I like where I live. But it is Sunday, and I know I have to work tomorrow, and I have some lifting to do over the next couple of days so that I can have fun when we're off.
You're going to hustle. Hustle for 2 days.
Gonna hustle. I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Exactly.
/ when I'm on PTO. Actually, not on Wednesday.
No, you'll sleep very little Wednesday, but
that's okay.
It's okay.
When you guys leave.
Yeah, I guess you just aren't sleeping this week, thanks to us.
Yeah, no.
Okay, how do you think I'm doing?
I think you're excited to be here, but settling into a new space, which always just like takes some time. Hopefully feel comfortable though. I feel like we're pretty good at just walking into each other's spaces and being at home.
Yeah.
A little sore.
Mm-hmm.
Starting to feel the muscles.
Yep.
A little dried out because it's very dry here. Not your nice humid Chicago-ness.
Yeah.
I'm probably really excited to go back to the airport tonight and complete our trio.
I know. What is missing?
Maybe a little bit sad that you're away from your roommate for a while, but I don't know.
Wow, that was so descriptive and just illustrates your like thoughtfulness and awareness, which I love. You're spot on, except yes, I kind of already feel settled. Good. I don't know if that's bad. I think that's good.
No. I did the same thing when I visited you in Chicago. I feel like within 30 minutes, I was just like, I'm eating this.
Exactly.
I'm taking that.
It comes with the territory of having lived together, which we've lived together. It feels like we've lived together a few times. College.
After college.
After college.
After.
And then after college. I consider our month in Colorado together
Oh, I totally
a temporary
forgot about
roommate
that.
situation.
Oh, that was 100%.
Yeah. So we're basically forever roomies. Yeah. In my mind. So therefore, wherever you are, I'm comfortable.
Aw. Vice versa.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for coming on the podcast. Just can't say it enough. So excited you're here. Okay, how about we share how we know each other? We kind of already gave it away, but maybe, do you want to share first impressions?
Oh, gosh. I'm trying to remember, actually, the very first time we met, group interview, yeah?
Oh, my God.
And you had the brown pen. There was just something about, were you the one with the brown marker? There was somebody, or like, their favorite color was brown. It's something about the color brown and a pen and you.
This is how my memories of us are too, where I remember certain elements, but I don't remember the specifics. One of the questions we were asked was, wait, wasn't it like, tell us a fun fact or something interesting about yourself?
Oh yeah, and somebody said their favorite color was brown.
Somebody said yes, and no judgment, but
yeah,
I mean, I guess that is interesting.
I guess it's an unusual favorite color to have, but
I don't know if I had a brown pen.
Maybe you tried to steal a pen.
Oh my God. I accidentally,
you weren't stealing a pen, but you walked out and then you came back in and you were like, I'm so sorry.
Oh my God.
I tried to steal the pen.
Such good times.
Yeah, funny times.
Oh. That's when we first met. I am now thinking, though, I feel like one of my more like deeper first impressions of you was when we ate dinner together.
And I was hitting your foot.
Yeah, wait, so I don't remember all the details for that, but I do remember, I'm pretty sure like you had, correct me if the roles were reversed, but I'm pretty sure I was the one that was like, I was intimidated by you. And I'm realizing now that like as I do these interviews, I'm pretty sure all my first impressions are kind of the same, which is like all the people that I end up becoming friends with, at first I'm like, they're way out of my league and they're so cool. But that's how I felt, because I remember funny. I'm pretty sure you were maybe looking at a bulletin board and you had like this long, beautiful hair. You had these really cool glasses. And it was just that was like our first time hanging out one-on-one, I think. We just said we'd eat dinner together in the cafeteria. And I was just, I guess, a little nervous. But then we ate and you kicked my foot or something? Or was I kicking your foot?
No, I like can't sit still. I have a hard time with it.
It's hard.
And we were sitting at the table and I was just like bouncing my leg and my foot against what I thought was the table or like a chair leg, but it was your leg.
Meanwhile, I'm bruised.
Chopping your ankle.
Suffering in silence.
And you didn't say anything for the longest time. And then all of a sudden you were like, can you stop hitting my leg? And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And I was mortified. I was like, oh my gosh, this person thinks I'm crazy. I've been hitting her for like 10 minutes.
It probably did make me feel slightly less intimidated by you, because it was like a humorous moment of, oh, you're just like every other human. This truly is like, these are all my first impression stories. Ours is unique, as are all of my first impression stories, but I can't feel comfortable around somebody until, it doesn't have to be something embarrassing, but like until something very human happens.
That was a very human moment. Mistaking a human leg for a chair leg.
And then we moved in together and the rest is history. No, I guess we don't have all night, but that was my first impression.
I do remember that. That was like our first
bonding.
Yeah. Out of the office.
Yeah.
And then we just stuck it out.
We stuck it out, and now it's like there's no going back.
Yeah, no. I feel like you couldn't not be a part of my life.
Yeah.
Like even if you wanted to, it's just like not possible right now.
Yeah. Sorry, buddy.
You're in it. You're in it for the long haul.
But it really does feel like chosen family, like sisterhood. And at this point, we've been friends for over 10 years because we're old now.
Whoa.
A decade of friendship.
Of like chosen friendship too.
Yeah. I know. Nobody was forcing us after we graduated. Not that we were forced then.
There was just like a wider pool of people.
Yeah, definitely.
Lots of life changes, and to continually choose to bring somebody along.
It's significant.
Yeah.
I hope we can inspire you, listener. Find your people. The thing that is frustrating, though, we've talked about making friends now as an adult, is I look for what we have.
Yeah.
Which is impossible.
It's a very high standard to hold a lot of people to.
I'm like, oh, that person doesn't have long hair with glasses and isn't kissing. And isn't kissing me. No, isn't kicking my foot. Yeah. And so if they don't do that, it's an automatic out. But in all seriousness, you can't expect, it's not fair to expect people to be
where we're at 10 years later. Yeah. Even though I do feel like we had a very strong bond immediately.
We did.
Like you were one of those people who I was like, yeah, we're going to be friends.
Yeah.
One way or another. It's just going to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. True. Oh, I'm so grateful.
Oh my gosh, me too. Me too. I mean, there are times where I think back and I'm like, I wish I would have made different decisions and gone different places. And I'm like, but I do have some wonderful people that have come out.
Yeah.
Of the places I've been. So
it's so true. As cliche as it is, it's like everything happens for a reason. Annoying. I feel like we're really funny right now. Are we funny, or am I the only one that loves this?
We have funny conversations just because we feed off of each other.
True.
I laugh at your silly things. You laugh at my silly things. It's like a nice little ego boost.
Yeah. Even if the listeners hate it, I'm having fun.
Who cares?
Anyway. Should we get into it?
Let's get even further into this thing.
All right. Well, who even are you and what are you doing here?
I should have expected these questions.
I know. So this is just meant to, this is part of the warm-up.
They are large questions. I mean, initially.
Yeah. What is coming to mind?
First reaction. Just like, I'm a being.
Yep.
Figuring out what I'm doing here.
Incredible.
Which is not really an answer to either.
No, it is.
But we're working it out.
That's exactly an answer.
I'm existing and working on it.
I think that's like the most honest answer, or it's the most like stripped down answer, because you do a lot of impressive things, but when you take it all away.
Yeah, because there are things that I do, but that's not necessarily who I am.
I feel like it makes us feel better. It makes me feel better to like attach almost like an identity to what I do, or even things I don't do but want to do. Like I like saying, oh, I'm a writer. And then I'm like, wait, when's the last time I wrote? But even that aside, it's still, when you peel back the layers. Yeah. I'm just a person. I'm a human, like, figuring it out. So I love that. A+ answer. Yay. You passed. Check plus. And now, how about we back it up a little bit?
Okay.
And talk about your early years. Tell me about your whole childhood.
Oh, yeah, because we have time for that.
But why don't we start with when you were a kid? What were you like then? What were you known for?
So I grew up as one of 4 kids. So definitely was one of the 4, one of the many. And I have thought about this a lot in the last several years. And I feel like we all kind of had, you know, you're the this one, you're the that one, you're the this one, you're the that one. And I hate this, but I was the nice one, or like I was the sweet one, which I guess isn't bad to be known as nice or sweet, but I was always kind of like, oh, like, you know, she's the funny one, or like she's the athletic one, and he's the smart one, and like I'm just the nice one. That seems so boring. But if you were to give titles to the 4 of us, that's kind of how they splayed out. So I was known as the nice one, the sweet one, the kind one.
Why do you think that is? Did you just like fall into that role, or did you want to be nice, or did you feel like you had to be nice?
I think we all have natural tendencies, and then we all are kind of guided by figures in our early life, right? And so I think I have a natural tendency to be very empathetic and to listen and to be very aware of people around me, even from a young age. And then being a middle child with those tendencies, I think you just kind of fall into that even more. And we're very much so peacemakers. You don't want to ruffle feathers. You're trying to like keep things calm and everyone happy and things like moving along in a good way. And I think I really just kind of did whatever anybody else wanted to do for a long time. Didn't really voice a lot of opinions and was just like, oh, whatever you want to do, like I can do that, and would just kind of fall suit to whatever else. And also because you want your older siblings to think you're cool. Yeah. So it'd be like, oh, whatever you want to do, I want to do that too. So I think there's a lot of different things that play into it. And yeah, how I was raised, you know, I feel like my mom always told me, like, find the people who need friends and be friends with them. So, you know, you find the lonely ones, the sad ones, and you go and make them happy. Yeah, or just, you know, be kind to them. So it was like somewhat taught, somewhat like self-preservation, and somewhat innate.
That's so interesting. That makes a lot of sense. I feel like we could go, or I could go on a whole tangent about like what does nice mean, because this is maybe getting caught up in specifics of words, but I do view you as a very kind person. But to me, I view nice as like agreeable, and maybe nice feels more surface level, or like because it's expected or something, whereas kind feels more in my head authentic and like coming from an empowered place of your choosing this. Yeah. And again, if you view nice as agreeable, kind doesn't always mean that.
Yeah.
While you are kind, you also aren't a pushover, or, you know, you're not just agreeable.
Not anymore, yeah.
Not that that's what you were saying you were, but this is now me just reflecting on my own definitions of nice versus other things. But that's so fascinating. Did you want to be anything when you grew up? When you were little, if somebody would ask you?
I went through a phase when I was really little where I wanted to own a zoo.
Oh my gosh.
If you own a zoo, you get to play with all the animals. Like everyone else has to clean up after them because they work for you.
Oh, so you were going to like run the place.
Yeah, I was going to run the zoo. I was going to be the zookeeper and get to play with all the animals and then make other people do the work.
Brilliant. That's really brilliant.
Apparently.
I love that. Well, thank you for sharing a little about your childhood. So now fast forward to today, you're a zookeeper, I assume.
Yep.
And
I mean, I'm a zookeeper of sorts.
That's so interesting. I've never heard of anyone. Usually it's like when I was a kid, I thought the options were for women, you could be a hairdresser, a teacher,
a mom.
What, I feel like there was another
like
option.
Cook. I feel like it was like domestic sort of like
beauty,
or like you would sell things, like you would work at a store.
Waitress.
Like waitress, yeah. Something with food, like a chef or a cook, or I don't know.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with any of these professions,
but it
obviously.
Wasn't like, but I'm going to be an engineer, or I'm going to splice DNA in a lab, or...
No, or even be a zookeeper. No, that was not in the cards.
No. Not that I think I was actively told, no, you can't do those things, but that wasn't necessarily the public message I received.
Yeah.
That wasn't what was broadcasted to us.
Totally. Well, I love that answer. Zookeeper. So, okay, let's fast forward then. So you went to college, and I know this because we went to college together. What did you study there? I don't even remember.
I studied business administration and kinesiology.
Oh my God, I should have known that.
Were you a BA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
With accounting? I don't know. Did you double?
Yeah, accounting and business administration with a minor in German, which was completely not right. Like I didn't deserve that because I don't speak German. But
you do a little.
I understand a little.
I think if you were stuck in a small German town where there was no English, you would make it work.
Actually, you're right. Because the few times where I was speaking with people that only knew German, you just do it. Like you
make it work.
You make it work.
You dig deep.
Yeah. So you majored in business, kinesiology. So what were you thinking you would do, and what did you do right after college?
Oh gosh. I honestly really did not know. I went in as a kinesiology major.
Wait, what is kinesiology?
So at the end of high school, I was really interested in nutrition, and that's what I was like, I think I want to study this, but I'd kind of already shortlisted schools by the time I figured out that I really enjoyed nutrition and anatomy and like kind of the health space. So I was looking at my list of schools being like, well, is there anything that's kind of similar? So our school had kinesiology as a major, which is the study of human movement and kind of like a pre-physical therapy sort of course.
Okay. Very sciencey.
Yes, it is very sciencey. So you do science and bio and A&P and physics, because it's like the mechanics, the biomechanics of the body, and a bunch of other stuff. So I went in with that as my major, and I really enjoyed those classes, but very soon, I was like, I don't want to be a physical therapist. I had some say in that. I love the material, but I was like, I don't want to work with athletes. I don't really care about how do I make people the fastest runner, the strongest kicker on a soccer field. Like, there just seems like there's many other problems in life that could use some attention. So I switched and added business because I wanted to study abroad, and you can study abroad with business. You can't really with science.
True.
And I had a professor in my first semester make the comment that he gave some stat, and it was like, I want to say 75% or higher of the people, whatever they study in college, it's not what they end up working in. And so it was very significant number. And I was like, okay, so it doesn't really matter what I study per se, as long as I don't want to be a doctor or an engineer or something very specific. I just need to learn, and then I will go and get life experience that actually applies to what I want to do.
That's unique.
Which is maybe kind of twisted, and I don't know if that's accurate, but I kind of took the pressure off myself. Like, you don't have to have it figured out. Whatever you study now isn't what you're necessarily going to end up working in. So learn, and then, take it one step at a time. So my first job, I do kind of feel like married the two areas together. I started working in operations at a healthcare center. It was a genetics lab. So I had my blend of business and health there. Or science.
That's really, I wish more people talked about that, how it's less about what you major in, because I feel like it's common to get the opposite messaging of like,
you better pick right. Yeah. I don't know if that statistic is true anymore. I think our world has changed a lot, especially since we were in school. I feel like we were kind of on the tail end of a generation before there was a big shift. But that was advice that I heard from somebody I really trusted and respected, and I just kind of took it to heart and was like, okay, I'm going to make this part of my life work for me now, and then I'll figure out the next step later.
That's amazing. That's really good life advice, like making whatever work for you rather than the other way around, which I think is more common. So then you got this job. Can you share just a little about your rude awakenings? Is like a strong term, but was there anything like, oh my God, I thought it would be like this and it's actually like that?
Yes.
Tell us.
There definitely were. And I think just in general, those first few years after school, I think are very rough for most people. I think it's just a very hard transition, and it's not really talked about very often. And I took the job, and I was grateful to have a job. I started before I graduated and didn't have to deal with any stressful periods of time of trying to figure out, like, how do I become an adult and make a living? But I didn't want to take it. Like, I did, but like, I cried when I accepted it, and I was like, I shouldn't be crying. Like, I just had this overwhelming sense of like sadness about this. Like, I'm entering into a dark phase of life, even though I think this is what I'm supposed to do. So I started the role, and it was honestly a great experience in a lot of ways, because I was very much so liked by the leadership in that group of the larger healthcare system. So I was well liked and given an insane amount of trust, and got to kind of dip my toes into a ton of different areas, and really whatever I wanted to do, I could have done it. What I was shocked by when I entered in the working life was that there really aren't adults in the world. Like, I remember being in the office just being like, how are people acting like such children here? Like, I'm in a professional setting. Why aren't people being professional? And then I just kind of had this aha moment one day where I was like, oh my gosh, these are all just like children that have grown up into 6-foot humans. like no one's really an adult. Everyone is still figuring it out. And I think I grew up with this idea of like, oh, there exists this adult world where people are responsible and respectful, and they listen and they think logically and rationally, and like there is emotion, but it doesn't just like this world that really doesn't exist at all. And it was kind of scary to realize that, 'cause like, how has civilization not crumbled?
Yeah. Who's letting these big babies do all this?
Seriously, because I was like, if these people who work in healthcare and like genetics are just big babies, then who's in the White House and who's in Parliament and, you know, who's flying airplanes? You know, like all these things. And I was like, this is really kind of terrifying to think about, and kind of disappointing also, because I was like, you know, we have all this time on this earth to try to like work on becoming a good human. What that can have so many definitions, but that people seem to just kind of give up and be like, I'm just going to go after what I need and what I want and live so selfishly.
Yeah.
And throw their little tantrums in their suits.
When you say people are acting like children, what do you mean? That they're being selfish or tantrums? Like, what were people mean?
I saw, you know, a whole host of things, but yeah, people not thinking critically, people not applying their knowledge, people acting selfishly and not being able to like kind of have emotion, but also like work through that. I guess not having the tools to like adjust and like emotional intelligence and when I feel frustrated, how do I deal with my frustration rather than sending a passive aggressive email that's going to slow down this project.
Ooh, yeah.
Like things where I was like, you weren't equipped to like function.
Yeah.
And it was expressed in just a lot of different ways. In some ways it cost the company money, and other ways I was like, you know, we're involved with hospitals and this could affect patients, and was just kind of a wake up call.
Yeah. How did you deal with them? Did you stoop to their level? Did you keep just because I do think it's hard, going back to the nice thing, yeah. Like it is hard when you have certain tools because it feels like you're operating within a framework that doesn't uphold the standards that you expected or that you maybe hold yourself to. So did it ever feel like you have to act like how they were acting in order to fend for yourself?
I never necessarily felt like I had to act how they were acting, but I 100% put on an act every day at work.
Ooh.
Like I felt like I was on stage, like it was a performance. Not that I was necessarily being fake or like an untrue version of myself, but I just remember being exhausted all the time because I had to go in and have my like office mask on, and I didn't feel like I could really trust anyone, and I had a certain character that I would put on, and not like a fake character to me. I never compromised my values or anything like that, but it was definitely draining. And I would say I did, you know, like I will listen, and I wouldn't necessarily participate in office gossip or like try to get people to tell me, but I think because I didn't spread any information, I became a trusted source in the office. So people would come to me and they would just spill all sorts of stuff, and it's kind of one of those things where I'm like, oh, okay, and like you react appropriately, like you know how you're supposed to react to certain things, but so I would hear a lot and I'd have to absorb a lot, and it was just draining to like deal with all of that and have this like pleasant persona, like I have it all together, and yes, I'm competent and I can
I can do it all.
I can do my job, and you know I can handle all of your issues too, and it was very tiring.
Wow, it sounds it.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I was still me in a way, but a very specific part of me.
Yeah, it sounds like you had lots of boundaries up, understandably, and that meant that you presented a certain way.
Yeah,
and it makes sense that you wouldn't trust them. So did you ever experience burnout?
Yeah.
So tell us about that, and what did you fix it? Did it go away? Are you still at that job?
I definitely got burnt out because it's exhausting to have to feel so guarded all the time. And I had switched roles and was working with different teams and was doing the work of two people.
Classic.
Which is a lot. And at first it was exciting, and then it just got to be overwhelming. And, you know, you get to that point where like I was having conversations with my manager saying like, I just want to let you know I'm not going to be able to meet all of our like return times on these inquiries. Like I know this is our goal, but it's just not feasible. And I just, you know, I'm going to let you know ahead of time that I'm struggling here because X, Y, and Z is going on, and I don't have enough time, even if I am working as efficiently as I can.
That's very mature of you. Was that scary?
It is a little scary to, you know, tell your boss, I can't do it all. Especially when you're young, because it's like, what will happen? I definitely had this expectation for myself, or, that the world had told me, you just do what you got to do. Get the job done and don't admit any weakness. You could get fired. That, you are scared kind of into, I think, just saying yes to the boss for whatever. But it also made me feel better to just admit, it's like, hey, I'm going to be a bottleneck here. And I'm sorry, but I'll let you know ahead of time. And if there's something you can do to help, cool. And I felt like I'd kind of grown as much as I could grow there. And I wasn't really being developed or invested in by other people because everyone was so overworked. So I had done as much work as I could on myself in that setting, and then kind of felt like I plateaued there, was doing the work of multiple people, and just outside of work too, started to feel like I needed to make some changes in life. And I quit. That was my resolution to figuring out the burnout, after having those conversations of just being like, hey, this is getting to be a lot, and how can we better, like, how do we change our operations to make this more manageable? And when all of those conversations just kind of fell on no action.
Yeah.
Even there would be talk, but after a while I was like, oh, interesting. You made that comment, but nothing has happened. And like once you see that multiple times, it's kind of like, okay, nothing's going to change here. What do I have control over? How can I make a change? And decided that I was going to take a year off, think about what I wanted to do in my life, where I wanted to go. I think after graduating, I was just kind of trying to keep my head above water and hadn't really had time to reflect on, like, where do I actually want to work on, like, moving in my life. So I quit and I sold all my things, and most of my things. And I decided to take a year off of paid work and take time to do things and to spend time in ways that I'd been wanting to, and take back my time for a year.
Oh, this is so cool. I think what you did is actually becoming quite common now. It's what I am doing. And you did it before it was cool. And that's amazing. I think you've done that in a lot of areas. Or I guess another way to say that is, I think you ask questions that other people maybe don't ask, or you don't do things because other people are doing it. Like I mean, I can't say for sure, but it's very possible that I felt I could do what I've just done, which is a little bit similar to what you did, because like everyone around me is doing it. I think it takes a lot of courage and self-awareness and like a commitment to oneself to do that. So I just give you a lot of credit for doing that. I think it's so cool. And then can you summarize, like, I feel like we could probably talk forever about what you did there, but if you had to summarize, what did you do in that year? Like, maybe tell us in summary, what did you actually do? And then I'd love to ask you a question or two about what you learned.
Okay, so what I actually did, I managed the off-season operations of a vegan restaurant for a month living in France. I did a cross-country road trip in the US, spent some time at home for the holidays, which was really special to spend Thanksgiving and Christmas at home for the first time in years. I went out to South Africa and volunteered with a food insecurity and permaculture group, and then in a permaculture focused hostel, doing like international hospitality, and also got to get a little bit involved with the host's work at the university. She was a speech pathologist. So really just kind of living in different parts of the world and trying to integrate and do a little bit of volunteer work in areas that I find interesting. Spent time just traveling in South Africa. I went and visited a good friend in Brazil, traveled through Southeastern Asia with one of my best friends, and experienced lots of fun new things. Came back for a couple weddings, spent some time in the UK doing the high culture life, and then spent a month living at the end of a fjord in Norway, helping run a historic property and welcoming guests and just trying to reflect in the mountains. Once I arrived, I didn't go back into town for like the entire time. So it was really just out off the water in the mountains, which was wonderful. And then I walked across Spain and
Casual.
came back into the US.
Oh my God. I was friends with you through all of that. And I this is maybe not good, but I forgot some of that. You did a ton.
Yeah, it was a busy year.
Oh my gosh, I have so many questions. Okay. Oh, how do I want to ask this? Even as a fellow traveler, everything you just said sounds like, oh my God, how did you... The question that's coming to mind that is not really the question, but I could see a past version of myself before I realized I had permission to explore things that I personally wanted to explore, so long as I had the means and it felt like a, smart, safe decision. There was a time where I just I couldn't really grasp living for me. Mm-hmm. So the question, I might cut this out, but the question coming to mind is like, what gives you the right? That's, again, not my question, but I feel like some people who are so far outside of the space that I think you were in and that I think I got myself to eventually, of like, I am allowed to enjoy life. The people that are maybe more in the rat race, in the like climb up the ladder, that's very career focused, might really be like, how would it cross your mind to do something like that? Is that making sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does. And I feel like we had hour-long conversations. I remember walking around Cambridge for hours on the phone with you, trying to like just process my thoughts. And I think it took me a long time to get to that place where I was like, yes, I can do this. But I think there were two big factors in how I came to that spot. One of which is I love talking to older people. And I love, just hearing people's life stories. And I think we have themes in life. Like, when you read a book, or, when we read books in high school, right? I'd be like, what's the theme of this chapter? What's the theme of this book? I think those just appear in life. And there are periods of time where people in so many different areas from your life can kind of start to say the same thing. And it just becomes very significant to you. It's, a theme of that season. And I had a lot of people make the comment of, I wish I would have when I was younger, before I had a family, before I had a house, before I had a car, and just talking about all these regrets that they had. And it was never that they regretted, they never like, oh, I wish I would have worked more, or I wish I would have not gone to that event and stayed at the office for this meeting, or I wish I would have sacrificed something like that I enjoy personally to get farther in my career. Like, nobody ever said anything about that. It was that they wish they would have done and had this experience that they wanted to have at a time of their life when it would have been more meaningful, or when they could have enjoyed it more. So I kept on hearing that, and I'd really taken note of it. Mm-hmm. And I also took a week off of work for the holidays and was just dreading going back. And I started asking myself, why are you so hesitant to go back? Why does this feel like such a burden? What is it? Other than the fact that you're working a lot, but like you're used to working hard. So it's not like that's an issue or new to you. I kind of had this moment where I was like, oh, I don't want to be like anybody that I work with. And if I don't want to be like anybody that I work with, like the people below me or the people above me, if I don't aspire to be like the leadership board where I'm working, or, my manager or his manager or our CEO, like if I don't look up to any of those people or really have a decent amount of respect for any of them, I'm in the wrong place. Because like, what am I doing here if I'm not surrounding myself with people that I think are going to make me a better person? Mm-hmm. And so that was something where I was like, okay, it's time to leave. And I'd thought about moving into another job, but really just had that thought coming back of, what do I want to do now? Like, what do I need to do for me at that time? Because I really felt like I wasn't who I wanted to be anymore. And I needed some time to like get myself back to who I wanted to be.
Who did you want to be? Or did you just know you didn't want to be who you were becoming? I just knew
I didn't want to be so tired and stressed out all the time that I couldn't really focus on what was happening around me, or feel like I could partake in, like, feed into other people's lives, or like be caring and be genuine in a lot of my interactions. So there were like characteristics, I guess, that I was like, I don't think I have this anymore, and I want to have that. Like, I would want to be described in that way, and I don't think I could be right now because I don't have the capacity to have those characteristics.
Wow.
As a human.
Oh, you amaze me. It's incredible that you did that so young. I mean, I know that it was not that long ago, but again, it was before it was cool.
It was definitely unusual.
Totally carving out your own path.
Yeah.
So you went on all of those adventures. Did you notice any differences in how people lived their life, the pace of their life, how they viewed work, all of that, compared to how we typically do things in the US?
Yes, and that's like a 5-hour conversation in and of itself. But I think high level, like, I really spent the first month trying to undo a lot of what had been ingrained in me while living on the East Coast. And like, I love living on the East Coast, but there's definite, like, there's just like this kind of like driving pressure to always be accomplishing something, to always become like, you know, we have all these amazing academic institutions, so it's like you have the best of the best of the best, these very specific weird things. I just felt like there's
like
so much,
what?
you know, like, oh, I study this very specific microbiotic whatever cure, or like I work specifically in this type of cancer that only affects like half of your tongue, or I like have spent my life studying this one author, and
like masters of one specific thing.
Masters of their topic, and the more niche the better. And so it's just like this driving force of always having to prove that you were worthy of being around these people, or that you were good enough, or you knew enough, or just this like pressure to always be on and accomplishing and doing, and thinking forward, and not really necessarily just being present in the moment. And, you know, you get a lot of things about success preached to you, and what it means to be successful, and how you should be living your life, and what's the right way to act, and how should you spend your money, and how should you save your money, and, you know, how much money should you be making by the time you're this, and what type of title should you have, and just all these very external factors. So it took the first month to just kind of like take out all the noise in my life, and not have all of those inputs all the time. So it was very quiet. I didn't have a schedule. I didn't have a boss that I was trying to impress. Like, all of these kind of external prestige factors were just stripped away, and it was just like me and a bunch of cats and a raspberry patch and some other people who were traveling who like could care less like whether you had a cool job title or how much money you were making, because it was just kind of like, whatever, you know, I'm traveling across France. Like, everyone had their own story, and it didn't really matter where you'd come from. We were all there, and just being quiet and not marching to somebody else's drumbeat, I guess. So trying to like break away from all of that, and take my job out of my identity, because I think it had started to really become ingrained. And that was something I really noticed traveling, is you meet anyone from pretty much any country, anywhere, and if it is a polite question to ask soon after you meet someone, what do you do? They will say, I do this, not I am this. And that's what you hear in the US. If you ask somebody like, oh, what do you do? It's like, oh, I am a teacher. I am a doctor. Like, that is your identity. Whereas in other countries, it's I do this. It's not who you are. But there's also a lot of countries where it's actually very rude to ask somebody what they do for work. Like, that's a very personal question that you would not ask somebody you've just met.
Wow.
Because
none of your business.
It doesn't matter. And, you know, to some people it's like, oh, well, you're just trying to figure out how much money I make. Like, it's just such an outside factor. Like, you don't need to know that. Like, we are connecting as humans here, and what I do or how I make my income, like, that doesn't matter here, because we're here at this place doing this thing, and you don't need to know what I do.
That's incredible. I love that.
It was very eye-opening. And yeah, something I really took note of, and I'm very careful to say I do this, not I am this. To this day, it's just something I really took away from all of that. And yeah, there's very different paces of lives. People, I would generally stay for a month at least in one place. So a lot of people thought I was Canadian because the US is known for not having vacation time. So the fact that I could go and spend time away with the rest of the world, that was very confusing to them. So yeah, people value time off. There's not this weird like scare tactic almost of I can't leave because I need to prove how valuable I am by being here, and like things are going to fall apart if I leave, which things are, a business should not fall apart if somebody leaves, if it's a good business. But we want to have that level of value, and it's like this weird back and forth. It's like, oh, I want more time off, but actually I like want to be needed so badly that they can't let me leave.
Oh my God.
And yeah, just kind of funny things that I started to notice, because once you step out of a situation, you get a better view looking in of like, why is that connected? Those should not be connected. So lots of other things, but those were some of the biggest that I noticed.
That is so well said. The piece about like, we love to hate it.
Yeah.
But it's all like codependent and all messed up. And you just spoke like truth, I think. Apart from the differences you noticed in how people handled or viewed work outside of the US versus in the US, what was one of the biggest lessons or takeaways that you had personally or learned personally from that time?
Yeah, I think it was just like a time to try to be and to try new things. And as I said, like I had kind of gotten to a point where I didn't really like who I was anymore, and I didn't feel like I could be the person that I wanted to be, or be known as the person that I wanted to be known as. And over the course of the year, it was trying to get kind of back to that place where I liked who I was, and I didn't want to be dependent on anything else, or like anything that I was doing. Like, yeah, it's cool to be a traveler, but you know, at the end of the day, did I like who I was? Like, if somebody didn't know I was international, or like had whatever cool factor, when it's just me, what did I think? And it's really hard not to think about the past and think about all the I wish I would haves. And you know, I'm who I am right now because I didn't do X, Y, and Z, or like I could be so far ahead if I had done whatever. And also not being so stressed about the future all the time of like, I have to have a PhD by the time I'm 30, or I need to be making 6 figures, or have a certain title. And it was this process of stopping this kind of looking around and just sitting where I was at. And so it was this year-long thing, and I had a very, very, very beautiful moment that I will remember for the rest of my life, towards the end of that year in Spain, where I just kind of had that moment where I was like, I've been able to get back into that headspace, and I'm not thinking about my past, and I'm not thinking about my future, but I'm 100% in the present moment, and content, and curious. And you know, I don't think I'm the perfect version of myself. There's always room to move forward, but I don't feel that pressure or that stress to have to like mask where I'm at to the world, but like I can just sit in this moment, and just take it one step forward at a time. And that's something I've tried to carry forward, is like not letting other people speak into my life, but being comfortable with where I'm at and letting myself make the choices.
That's so beautiful. Oh my gosh. So how have you been able to carry that into now? Because you do work now, you're in the States now. Are you able to like integrate presence into your life surrounded by the busyness of
and it's been, you know, I mean, there have been several phases of life since then.
We're literally just scratching the surface.
But I do think that really kind of helped me realign my values in a lot of ways, and it's given me the confidence to set boundaries with work, and given me the confidence to say like, I want to live my life in such a way and not feel pressure to join. Like I am in the rat race to a certain extent, but like I'm in it in the way that I want to be in it. And I don't feel pressure to have a certain title or do anything like that. Like, it's given me confidence to set my own boundaries and set my own expectations for myself in a lot of ways. And also has encouraged me to pursue the things that I know are grounding for me and make sure that I make time for that. Whether that like I bring other people along for those activities, or whether I just say like I need to have time alone to kind of like reset myself, and take myself out of the noise and do those things that I find to be very nourishing. I've tried to slowly work myself into a position in life where I have the tools to be able to keep myself a healthy being as best as I can.
That's so important, and I think something that a lot of us lose sight of, because I don't think it's often encouraged in many workplaces, and sometimes it is, and it feels not genuine.
Yeah, or there's the verbal but not the action.
Yeah, exactly. Take care of yourself, but also we need you to work late.
60 hours a week, and you actually can't take any of that unlimited PTO. So.
Yeah.
And I am an extremely fortunate person in that I've been able to find a place to work where like it's still a company, but there is that recognition of humanness, and there's a lot of EQ and IQ, which has just been an amazing combination to stumble into, and people genuinely caring for each other and recognizing that a job like that does not come first. Like my director said to us the other day, he's like, oh, I totally get it. Family first, client second, I'm third. And just that recognition of the hierarchy. I was like, all right, like I can get behind that. So I'm very fortunate because it's hard to find those spaces.
I'm very happy that you found that space because it is well deserved. I want to not ask you what you do now because of what you said about how in some places that's a rude question. I don't think that you would interpret it rudely, but I like the idea of not asking you. I'd love to ask you a couple more questions though, if that's okay. Unless you do want to talk about like what you're currently doing.
Up to you.
Okay. You're so good with the flow. What do you cherish most about your life now? What brings you joy? And it can be work, but it can also not be work.
I mean, I enjoy my work, but I am definitely somebody who works to live, not lives to work. So I'm thankful that I don't get the Sunday blues anymore. I really love having, I feel like I've entered into a chapter of like access and independence. I did public transportation for like many years of my life, and have loved living in that way and living in very communal settings. But I love having the ability to take myself out of the city now and having access to the mountains, and just beautiful spaces away from man's mess in a lot of ways. to just kind of take myself out and away from the noise and just into the quiet in nature, even though there's actually a lot of noise out there if you listen carefully.
True. But that's because, just for anybody that's maybe a little confused, because you live near the mountains and you now have a car.
I do, yes.
We haven't even been looking at the...
Oh, hello, people.
Hello.
Yeah, so I have access to the mountains, which has been amazing. And I said this earlier, and who knows if this will be in there or not. But growing up, I was not the athletic one in my family, and I still don't think of myself as athletic. But I've found just like a lot of strength and confidence in spending time moving outside. So that's like a very exciting activity for me that like is just mine. And I don't track things. I don't race. I don't do anything. But it's just like something that I take pride in quiet. In those ways, out in the mountains. So that has been a wonderful thing. And I have really enjoyed creating my home. This is the first time that this is the longest I've been in one place since 2017. I don't know. In several years, this is the longest I've stayed in one place. So it's been fun to kind of make roots and make my routines and start to build my community. And, I love that there are people here that I'm not close with, but they know when I'm gone and they are concerned about me. It's like, oh, like I haven't seen you in a few weeks. Like, is everything okay? Where have you been? Like, what's new? And just having those small relationships in your life. You're like, oh, I'm a familiar face here. Yeah. And finally having a space that I can welcome people into, because for so long I was was the receiver of hospitality, and now I'm excited to be in a place where I can give hospitality.
To me. That's so special. And, okay. The word driftwood. So this is a word that would come up often in our conversations in the past.
Yes.
And the way I recall it is you would use it to describe how you felt in life, in career. Correct me if I'm wrong, but can you just reflect on the word driftwood for me? What is it? What did it mean to you? How do you feel now? Do you still, she would often say, like, I feel like a piece of driftwood, like just floating like along a river or something. So do you still feel that way? Driftwood, what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think for a long time I used that term because I really didn't feel like I had a lot of control. Like I was just kind of stuck in life's currents, and I was like being told this is the way you should go, and nope, now you're gonna go over here, and wasn't really working towards anything specific. I didn't really have any major goal that I wanted to work for. Like there were smaller things. I was like, yeah, I'd like to do this and I'd like to do that, but nothing that I was like, I have to.
Like a big life dream or purpose or something?
Yeah. And I was just kind of like, I just make it through day by day, but like as the days go on, what does that amount to? And like I'm not really taking direction in any way, you know. I just go over here when life tells me to go over here, and then I'm stuck over here even though I don't want to be over here, you know, in this cesspool with all the other
big babies,
pieces of debris. And it was a very frustrating time in life, and frustrating for a lot of reasons. And I think I had some people who were like, just, you know, stop playing the victim, you know, like take control of things, like do what you want to do. And I just didn't feel like I actually had the ability to do some of those things.
Why?
For like financial reasons or expectation, like societal expectations, or even just like having the recognition like I have to take care of myself. And like I think I'd be too drained trying to do this other thing and trying to keep up with like normal life stuff and take care of myself. Like I don't think I have enough resources to spread myself into all these areas to like maybe bring into reality something that I want to bring into reality. Yeah, it was a very sad sad time in life, and just feeling a little bit lost, I guess. And I don't necessarily feel like a piece of driftwood would anymore. And I definitely, like, it has taken a long time to get out of that and feel like I have purpose in what I'm doing, and that I have more control over my life, and, you know, have the resources to maybe affect change where I think I need to affect change. And yeah, like not have my hands tied behind my back, but have things, yeah, have just more control over where I'm going and how I'm getting there, instead of just floating along.
Yeah, that's so cool. I think that I imagine a lot of people feel that way, like feel like driftwood. Some days I still feel like a piece of driftwood. Yeah. And I think I said in the last episode that I'm in very much a feeling stage of feeling kind of angry that most of us do still have to like participate in the rat race, even in a way that feels like more palatable or more sustainable for us. That still very much feels like an uphill battle. Thus, I think sometimes leading me to feel like driftwood, or whatever word you want to use. I think especially in a society that tells us, what is that noise?
I don't know. Something over
I don't know.
here.
That very much glamorizes having like a dream, a purpose, a passion that you go out and achieve. The American dream in a lot of ways. So especially as somebody that has experienced the other side, I don't know if that's the right word, but an alternate reality, a different reality outside of the one that we're living in here, at least for a time. Is it ever challenging for you to need to still kind of like bend to the systems, you know, like still have a job at all because you need one, even though it's a good one? Because yeah, like hearing your story about being in Spain and just having this moment of like such deep presence. I'm like, I want that for you every moment, and I want that for everyone. And I'm rambling now, but is my question making sense?
Yeah. I honestly think one of the things that like has helped bring me out of the driftwood phase was just being exposed to how many ways there are to live a life. I think we are given this very specific message in the US, and especially with, well, I don't even know if I can say this, but with social media, which I don't partake in, but we are fed, like there's a lot of things just given to us and communicated to us constantly, and it's very hard to get away from that. And it's generally a pretty homogenous message. Like it's, this is what a life should look like, or what you should have in life to be happy. And leaving the US and just living and trying to be open to actually immersing yourself in living in so many different countries and cultures, it was encouraging, I think, more than anything, to just see how many ways there are to live a life and to be happy. Like, you don't have to have a big home to be happy. You don't have to have this amazing career to live a fulfilled life. And yeah, just seeing all the different ways that people were existing and existing happily and existing beautifully, all at the same time, was very eye-opening, and I think empowering in a lot of ways to come back here and say, no, I'm choosing not to listen to that. I'm going to live the way that I think I need to live. And yeah, that means I have to work a job, and there are days where it's frustrating, but it enables me to do the things outside of work that I find to be satisfying.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. That's such a healthy outlook, and I'm on my way to feeling that same way.
I mean, it's definitely a manicured state of living. Like, I don't feel like you can necessarily just set it free. Like, you have to constantly remind yourself like what your values are and what you actually hold to be true, instead of letting the other voices start to speak into your decisions.
So true. Such wise words. Oh, I could ask you so many more questions, but I know it's dinner time, and we have our friend coming soon. So
yeah, actually,
thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
You're welcome.
Appreciate you far beyond this conversation for reasons that listeners will never know. I feel like being like, you have no idea who you're talking to right now. This is such a privilege. A saint is in your midst. But really, thank you so much for sharing. I truly feel like there's so much wisdom in everything you said. You're super well spoken, for the record.
Thank you.
And I imagine a lot of people have felt how you felt and maybe feel, and I don't know that, and some people maybe took unconventional paths like yourself, and maybe others wish they could. Regardless, I hope that people have connected to your message, because I think there's a lot of universal truth in it. Yeah. And we didn't actually talk about the specifics of what you're doing now for work, but as we've discussed, that's not your whole identity. But yeah, this feels weird. I don't know how to wrap.
Do you know what I do?
No, I really just wanted to say that I think I'm wanting to wish you well.
Oh, thank you. Wish me well.
Yeah, I wish you well, and it's been great knowing you. The purpose of our friendship up till this point was for me to get this episode recorded so that I could get what I need.
The last 10 years,
and now
all a farce.
Yeah, and so it's been such a good decade, but I'm gonna leave now.
Yeah, did you want to spend the rest of the week in the garage?
Yeah, I will. I definitely will. She told me I was staying in the garage when I first arrived.
And you believed it, which
I did believe it. But yeah, I think I'm just trying to say, I appreciate you sharing, appreciate your journey, and I'm just excited to see the rest of your journey, because as we've discussed,
too.
You are stuck with me. So
well, I'm excited to see your journey too.
Thank you. We'll see where it leads.
Yes, we will.
All right, let's go eat dinner now. Talk soon. Bye. Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Thank you for listening to Who Are You and What Are You Doing Here? We hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we did. If you enjoyed the podcast and you haven't already, please be sure to like and review the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to ask questions or give feedback to us directly, please visit bibs.live/contact and reach out to us there. We'd love to hear your feedback. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast or channel depending on where you're listening, and we'll see you back here next time. Thanks for listening. Talk soon.